right, so the time has come that a lot of people have been waiting for, especially since the release of this one right here. This is the DJI Air 3. But the one thing that held, I think, some people back from buying this drone was they were wishing that the bottom camera, the wide camera, was a 1-inch censored camera like we have on the Mavic 2. So a lot of people were on the fence on wanting to buy this one because they wanted to wait, and now the wait is over. We have a all-new 1-inch sensor on the wide camera on the Air 3S, as well as an all-new 1/1.3-inch sensor here on the top for the telecam, and both cameras are updated with new imaging processing. So this is an exciting day for those that wanted to wait out the Air 3 and wait for the Air 3S. It is now available with the all-new camera system here. However, if you did purchase the Air 3, this camera is a beast. I've been using it non-stop since it released, and this thing is still extremely good, even compared to the 3S. So in this video, let's go through all of the new features of the DJI Air 3S, and also how does the image quality compare to something like the Mavic 3 Pro, of course, the Air 3, and this one right here, the Mini 4 Pro. Now the first we'll talk about is the design and weight of the new Air 3S, and for the most part, if you look at the Air 3, the color is the same, the size and the weight very similar. The design actually looks pretty identical to the Air 3, except of course right here we have that monster new camera here on the Air 3S. We have the 1-inch sensor on the bottom, 1/1.3-inch on the top, where here we have the dual 1/1.3-inch on the Air 3. And just for context, as far as weight goes, the new Air 3S weighs in at 723 grams. The weight of the Air 3, 723 grams. Mini 4 Pro, 248 grams, 247, 248 grams. And of course, the Mavic 3 Pro, 936 grams. Now, the one that is really nice, because of the fact that the designs of these two drones, the Air 3 and the Air 3S, are pretty much the same. Luckily enough, the batteries are also interchangeable. So if you do have some Air 3 batteries, you are able to swap them over here and they fit perfectly. There you go. Jumping back to the most important thing, that is the camera. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a 1-inch wide angle camera here at the bottom, which is equivalent to 24 millimeters. And here on the top, we have an all new 1/1.3-inch sensor, which is equivalent to 70 millimeters. When the Air 3 was released, having both of those options on one drone, I think just opens up the door to so many different things, especially when you're doing video. That longer lens adds a lot more compression to your video, where you just have a lot more parallax movement. It really isolates the subject. And with that 24 mil wide angle, we have that 1-inch sensor, which for me is very beneficial because I like to do a lot of prints with my photography. So anytime I can get a larger camera and a larger sensor up in the air to take my photos, definitely beneficial. And the bigger and better the camera, of course, you're gonna have a lot less artifacts, a lot less grain in your videos, and especially for me, your photos. And of course, speaking of extremely high quality, we have the Mavic 3 Pro. Now, the one thing that the Mavic 3 Pro offers that the Air 3S does not is that we do have an adjustable aperture on the Mavic 3 Pro. The wide angle on the Mavic 3 Pro does have an aperture of 2.8, adjustable all the way up to f11. And that's definitely still one of the biggest benefits of something like this, the Mavic 3 Pro, as well as the Mavic 2 Pro. That also has the adjustable aperture. The biggest benefit of that adjustable aperture on something like the Mavic 3 Pro is that you are able to make those micro adjustments while you're up in the air as far as exposure goes. The wide camera has an aperture of an f1.8, and the top telecam has an aperture of an f2.8. A new feature that the Air 3S actually pulled from something like the Mavic 3 Pro is the ability to shoot in a higher maximum ISO. Here on the Air 3, we were capped out at 6400 ISO. Now with the Air 3S, we have all the way up to 12,800. That higher ISO, as well as the all-new image processing chip, definitely helps out in those lower light scenarios. So if you're the type that shoots a lot in the early mornings or in the later evenings, sunsets, you're going to want to pick up a drone that also has a better dynamic range as well as higher ISO for a lot of those night shots. And speaking of dynamic range, the Air 3S does have the dual cameras that also shoot up to 4K 60 frames a second in HDR. Now, DJI is claiming that you're able to get up to 14 stops of dynamic range on the Air 3S compared to 12 stops here on the Air 3. Now, with all the camera updates on the Air 3S, how does the footage compare to these drones right here? Next, we're talking about photos and image size. We do have a little bit of a bump up here. 50 megapixel photos here on the bottom wide camera, the 1-inch censored camera, which is an upgrade from this one here. We had a 48 megapixel option on the Air 3. Now, one thing to note, even though we're shooting with a higher megapixel on the Air 3S, you also have a much larger camera and sensor here on the Mavic 3 Pro. So even though it is shooting at 20 megapixel photos, you have such higher quality coming out of the camera. Also, when it comes down to photos, we have the standard panoramic modes that we have on a lot of these other drones. There is also a new panoramic mode called free mode, which allows you to take multiple shots with the wide as well as the telecam, giving you the ability to take multiple shots and then do all of the post-processing later on. When it comes down to video resolution, like I mentioned earlier, we do have that all new 4K 60 frames a second in HDR mode. But not just that, they also bumped up the frame rates to give you 4K 120. So if you're out there capturing any waterfalls, action sports, and you want to be able to slow that footage down, we now have 4K 120 on this drone, which was something that this drone had, the Mavic 3 Pro. Next, we'll talk about obstacle avoidance as well as image sensing. And the one thing that is nice is that we still have the omnidirectional sensing here. We have those 4 fisheye cameras all around the drone. We have the 2 in the front here, as well as 2 on the back. We also have the bottom sensors, landing sensors, and we have this right here, an all new Lidar sensor at the very front of the Air 3S. That Lidar system is not dependent on vision. So if you are flying at night and the drone were to come up on trees or a building, the Lidar system will actually pick it up a lot better than the vision sensors. One thing that's also really cool that they introduced on the Air 3 is the ability to have vision assist, where you can tap into the fisheye sensors here on the front as well as the side. If you want to just actually see on your screen what the camera sees, what the vision camera sees, and not necessarily just what your standard camera here sees, you can actually tap in on Vision Assist to see on the side of your drone. And now with the F3S, you also have downward Vision Assist. So if you want to see down below the drone and you want to tap into those vision sensors and the vision cameras, you are able to do that on the Air 3S. Now, when it comes to video transmission, that distance between your remote control and the drone, we also have the O4 technology that's being used on the RC2 remote control. You're able to get up to 20 kilometers in distance, very similar to what we have here with these drones. And speaking of remotes, this is the RC2. This is the one with the built-in screen. This is one I actually really like because of the fact that I don't have to carry around my mobile phone with me. But RC2 will work with the Air 3S, as well as this one here, which is the new DJI RCN3. Now, this is the one that was released with the DJI Neo. And with this one, you have to put in your phone here at the very top in order for you to see what the drone sees. And when it comes down to intelligent flight modes, yes, we have FocusTrack, just like we have here on these drones. That ability to use things like Active Track, the Follow Me feature, as well as Spotlight, and also Point of Interest. The one that's updated feature here is that you are able to use the Air 3S when following vehicles, when following boats. And the one thing I did test it out with too, which I thought was really cool, is that I put the drone up in the air right at the beach. I was able to follow a surfer. It labeled the surfer as a boat, which is fine. But what was nice is that I was able to use the zoom lens. So I was able to switch it over to the Tele Lens, punch in 3 times, 6 times, even 9 times, and I would let the drone sit there in spotlight mode, and the drone would just sit, and once the subject was highlighted, the camera will just follow that surfer around while the drone is sitting there hovering in the air. And of course, being a little more advanced drone, we also have different color profiles. So of course we have 10-bit D-Log, we also have HLG, and of course the standard normal mode. So you're able to switch that on in the camera settings, and if you want to do some post-processing, you want to have a little bit more dynamic range, you want to switch that over to 10-bit, because of course you're going to do your post-processing, your color grading in something like, for me I use Final Cut, but you can use any of those other programs. Here at the very bottom we have the binocular lenses as well as the 3D infrared for landing. So when it comes down to obstacle avoidance, you do have that omnidirectional with all the fisheye, updated LiDAR, which is really good for low light scenarios. We have an all new RTH or return to home feature. Of course, we have that new LiDAR system. And if there's some issues with the drone and it had to return back to home without any satellites, it's also able to do that on the new Air 3S. Now, when it comes down to flight time, we have 45 minutes rated on the Air 3S battery. we have 46 rated on the Air 3. On the Mini 4 Pro, we have a rated 35 minute on the smaller capacity battery. And if you guys don't know, Mini 4 Pro has a larger capacity battery that is rated up to 45 minutes. And when it comes down to the Mavic 3 Pro, rated 43 minutes of flight time on this drone. One thing I'm really happy that they did on the Air 3S, which we got also on the DJI Action 5, we have internal storage on this drone. So if you were to accidentally forget your SD card in your computer and you took the drone up in the air, not to worry, you have 42 gigs of internal storage. If you want to get some aerial time lapse, which they call Hyperlapse, you are able to do that with that 4K camera, as well as if you also wanted to do some vertical ones, 2.7K Hyperlapse. Now, one advantage that the DJI Mini 4 Pro has over the Air 3S is that you are able to change the camera orientation from horizontal to vertical. So if you wanted to shoot in that vertical format and still get 4K footage, you are able to do that here on the Mini 4 Pro. When it comes down to the Air 3S, you're not able to turn that entire camera around. However, they do offer frame guides in the app. When it comes down to max video bitrate, we actually do have 150 megabits per second on these two drones. Slightly lower one here, 130 megabits on the Air 3S. Other features that the drone has are things like Mastershots, where it's a combination, kind of a combination of a bunch of Quickshots. That's all done automatically. We also have things like Quickshots, of course, which are pretty much on all of the DJI drones, allow you to do those automated dronies, circle shots, as well as waypoints. So if you want to set up some waypoints on this drone, you are able to do that on the Air 3S. When you're all done shooting and you want to offload your video, the one thing I do like, which they started to do on a lot of their other drones now, is that you're able to then pop in a USB-C here. Either you can take out the card, or if you want to get to the internal storage, plug in USB-C, plug it to your computer, and you don't have to turn the drone on anymore. Once you plug it in and hook it up, it will now read as a hard drive on your computer, which I really like. If you don't want to use a cord, you can also quick transfer off this, as well as off-state quick transfer. And finally, when it comes down to price, if you want to pick up the DJI Air 3S with the RCN3 remote control, this is the baseline remote control, you're still going to need your mobile device on here. This setup right here comes out to $1,099 or $1,099 USD. And the RCN3 will be coming out with a Fly More combo, and I normally recommend the Fly More combo because you get extra batteries. So if you want to get the Fly More combo of these two right here, it also comes with the battery hub, this right here, which is really cool, as well as 2 extra batteries. This will come out to $13.99. Or if you want to jump up to this Fly More combo, Air 3S with the DJI RC2 with the screen built into it, this combo right here, the Fly More combo, comes out to $15.99. Now, for those of you guys that have been waiting on the fence and you held off not purchasing the Air 3, is the Air 3S the drone that you guys plan on getting now? Or are you looking at moving up to something like the Mavic 3 Pro, or even just like keeping the DJI Mini 4 Pro in your lineup? And for those that currently own the Air 3, is the Air 3S enough for you to move over and upgrade to this drone? Or are you thinking about, if I am going to upgrade, I want to make a bigger jump, probably move over to something like the Mavic 3 Pro, or I guess maybe wait till the Mavic 4 comes out. Let me know what camp you guys are in. What are you guys thinking about as far as what your next drone purchase might be? Leave your comments down below. As always, if you guys got some value from this video, a big like would be much appreciated. This is Alternate Stacio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys out there with the DJI Air 3S. Take care.